Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Thursday, the 11th day of Menachem. And today we begin letter 3 in Ageras Hakodesh. This letter, the Alter Rebbe wrote about tzedakah. So let's begin with tzedakah. Gedola tzedakah shemekareves es hageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. So many of the letters in this part of Tanya, the Igeret, Igeret is related to tzedakah. The Alter Rebbe was collecting tzedakah from the communities in Eastern Europe that were poor themselves, but he wanted to send money to the Holy Land, to Israel, and to the Hasidim, the Jews that lived there, to support them. They had no means to support. But the way the Alter Rebbe fundraised was by explaining the meaning of tzedakah, not just talking about the needs of the people, which was, of course, he mentioned and he explained very well, but he also goes into the core, to the essence of what is tzedakah. And that is why these parts of the letters, although this is written like over 200 years ago, the letters are very helpful and applicable today. And the Alter Rebbe's sons put it into the Tanya, because this is what we gain from this, the understanding, the depth of the meaning of this, the tzedakah and the other topics that the Alter Rebbe discusses in these letters. So here the Alter Rebbe talks about the special power of tzedakah. It says tzedakah is one of the mitzvahs that the fruits are given, the reward is given also in this world. Generally, it says mitzvahs, it says schar mitzvahs b'hai al meleka. The reward for mitzvahs we don't have in this world. And what does that mean? It's not that God does not help us and support us. That this is, God says in if you follow my laws, I'll give you all of the good things, the physical things and so on. But this is not considered a reward. This is just to fill the obligations of worker-employee conditions. Hashem gives us a job to do, so he gives us the physical things to be able to fulfill it. Their true reward does not exist in this world. And Alter Rebbe will explain, because the true reward is something which is too powerful, too intense, a godly reward that cannot be contained in this world. However, there is an exception with the mitzvah of tzedakah. And he will explain why. So let's begin inside. We're going to see a fascinating letter, how the Alter Rebbe explains this concept. The Alter Rebbe begins with a verse that it says in Isaiah. It says, "Vayilbash tzedakah kashiryain v'choiva Yeshua b'roishai," and he garbed himself with tzedakah, as with a coat of mail, and a helmet of salvation upon his head. What exactly does it mean? What's the connection with tzedakah, coat of mail? What is a coat of mail, first of all? So I Googled it, and here it is. Coat of mail is like a coat of armor, and this is the way they did it. They used to have a leather coat, and on top of the leather coat they would put the scales, metal scales, and there would be holes on each scale, and on top of each scale there was another scale that covered those holes. And that's how the armor was not just one big solid piece that you could move, but this was a special armor that you can flexible and yet in the same time protecting. But what is the connection here? What does it have to do with here? So the Alter Rebbe begins first with a simple explanation of what our sages explain, in the Gemara. It says, V'doshu Rabbeinu Zichreinu Livracha, our sages of blessed memory commented, and they said, Ma shiryen zeh kol klipa v'klipa mitztarefes l'shiryen gadol, af tzedakah kol pruto mitztarefes l'cheshben gadol. It says, just as with the chain mail, all the individual scales, they add up to form a large coat of mail, coat of armor. So it is with charity. All the individual coins given to charity add up to a great amount. That's a simple explanation. Well, the problem is that is too simple. You need to have a coat of armor metaphor to understand that every coin adds up to a big amount. Every child understands this. So there must be something deeper. So the Alter Rebbe says, I'm going to explain it outside and then we're going to read it. Basically what he says, the coat of armor is made, like as we said, with the scales, and there is holes, and each scale covers the hole on top. So he says, this is a metaphor, the concept of what tzedakah does. Now, what does that mean? So let's read it inside again. We're going to go back a little later. We're going to explain more. Pirush she'ashir yanosu kaskasim al nekavim ve'ein meginim shelo yikanes chetz banekavim. This means, and this is the additional point being made here, that just as the mail is made of scales covering gaps, and these shield one against any arrow entering through the gaps, so it is with the act of charity. So what does that mean? So the Alter Rebbe explained. The meaning of this is as follows. It says, charity is greater than all the commandments. So to understand this, how is charity greater than all commandments? The Alter Rebbe is going to explain that all the commandments, our sages tell us that there is no reward for the mitzvahs in this world, as we explained before. Why? Because this world is not capable of receiving such a powerful energy. And why is that? Because the mitzvah, what is a mitzvah? A mitzvah is the godly will. The godly will. Godly will, the ratzon, the will of Hashem, the essence of Hashem, is in the mitzvah. When you do something, what Hashem wants, you're doing the very essence of what Hashem is. And as such, the mitzvah, it says, schar mitzvah, the reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. The mitzvah itself prepares the soul in a garment, so to speak, to be able to receive that very light that the mitzvah creates. And that can only be done in the higher world, the spiritual world. This world is too physical, too limited to be able to appreciate this godly light. But there is an exception with tzedakah, as we'll soon see. It says, the meaning is as follows: charity is greater than all the commandments. For their performance produce garments for the soul. Now these garments are drawn forth from the infinite light of the blessed Ein Sof. From the level of Sovev Kalalmin, as we explained, there is the concept of Sovev Kalalmin and Memala Kalalmin. There is the Memali, is the light, the godly light that fills the world in an individual way. Sovev is something that encompasses, that it's too powerful, too intense. In other words, there is sometimes they say there is a difference between mitzvahs and study Torah. Study Torah, it is about understanding something. So when you understand it, it enters you. When you do a mitzvah, it becomes like a garment for you, because a mitzvah does not enter you. That godly will cannot enter you. In other words, when you do a mitzvah here, we do those things, we do those commandments of Hashem. When we take a simple lulav and shake it on Sukkot, we do movements here, physical movements, but we don't appreciate what this accomplishes, what this does. Imagine you're sitting in a high technology war center, a command center, and you're moving on a computer, like you're playing a video game. And in the meantime, what this accomplishes, you can use drones and destroy and create the whole war and put up the whole Middle Eastern war. And I mean, the point here is sometimes we do things that in the room you don't see what's happening, but it does somewhere else major effects. And that is a mitzvah. You do a mitzvah here, you're creating Hashem's will, but you're doing it in a physical sense. But what that affects is the greater light of Hashem, because that is the will of Hashem. The will of Hashem is above everything. So the meaning of Memala Kalam and Soiv Kalalmin has been explained in Likutei Amorim Ein Sham. See there. And these garments are brought into being by an arousal from below, meaning the human activity, simple activity of the human person, meaning the fulfillment of the command of God and the will of the Supreme Being. The essence of this efflux from the infinite Ein of light is a garment and encompassing light for the 10 Sephiros of the four worlds, Atziras, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So there is, as we said in the previous lessons, there is the light of Hashem that comes in a filtered way in order to come down, to allow itself to go down to the levels, from level to level until it reaches this physical world. It went through many filterings. And this is true also that 4 worlds, each world is considered more, the higher world is considered more godly revelation, the Atzilus, and then it goes from world to world. And in this world there is the 10 attributes. And the mitzvah that we do infuses more godly light from the encompassing light into the limited and finite in the world, the filtered world, so to speak. Which evolve from cause to cause and from rank to rank, from level to level. Now these sephiros, these attributes, being referred to as Memale Kol Almin, the light that fills the world. So the Alter Rebbe now answers the following question. Since the spheres themselves are the divinity of the 4 worlds, why do they need the infinite Ein Sof light as a garment? So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that this limited light of Hashem is something that cannot go without filtering. In order to receive the garment, in order to be able to receive that great light, you need to have a garment that is created from yet a higher level. Just an example can be given, like you could give someone when you give a vaccine to fight a certain virus or something. Sometimes you give from the very problem you infuse into the person, and that creates a defense. So from the highest light is created a garment, so to speak, to be able to receive that a benefit and enjoyment from the great light. Now this means that the Ein Sof light vests itself and radiates in an indwelling manner within the entire evolving chain of the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiyah. Moreover, it gives rise to the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus, which evolve into the world of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiyah. And this is done by means of an immense contraction. It's called the Tzimtzum, which is explained in Eitz Chaim. V'nikra oir penimi. Now, the resultant light is referred to as an indwelling light, or penimi, a light that vests itself in an inward manner within created beings, inasmuch as it is contracted to match the spiritual capacity of the particular created being in which it is clothed. Now, what happens through doing the actual mitzvah, which is performing God's will himself? That infuses in them a higher type of light. Now, by the fulfillment of the commandments, the above mentioned encompassing light is elicited and radiates within the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiyah, thereby uniting with the indwelling light. That's what we say, L'shem Yichud Kutsha Bricho Shchinte. Before we do a mitzvah, we say, do the mitzvah for the sake of unifying the light of Kutsha Brichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and the Shechina. The Shechina refers to the light that is the indwelling light. Kutsha Brichu is the light which is encompassing light. This is referred to as the unification of the Holy One, blessed be He. The epithet, holy, kadosh, signifying His separateness from the world, hence the level of Soivav Kalalman, encompassing light, encompassing the world. And His Shechina, the indwelling light, which is so called because the divine presence descends and dwells within the created world, as explained elsewhere. So this is what happens when you do the mitzvah, infusing the light into the indwelling light. And at the same time also, there is a reflection of that light that creates a garment to the soul to be able to benefit that light in the Gan Eden. And from a reflection of the above mentioned encompassing light, by means of a powerful contraction, a garment is made in the lower and upper gardens of Eden for the soul level called Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama of man, enabling them to derive pleasure and attain some apprehension and illumination from the infinite Ein Sof light, which is diffused in the Garden of Eden, as explained elsewhere. Now this is the meaning of the teachings of our sages of blessed memory, that in this world there is no reward for the fulfillment of the commandments. Now what does that mean? So as we explained earlier, we're not talking about enabling us to do the mitzvahs. We're talking about the true reward. For in this world, which is physical, and in a state of limitation, a state of great and most extreme contraction, it is impossible that any reflection of the infinite Ein Sof light should become invested. Except by the means of the 10 spheres which in the sacred Zohar they are referred to as the body. Like it says, Chesed Royemina, the sphere of Chesed, the kindness, is called the supernal right arm. Gevura, severity, is called the left arm, and so on. And why is it called a body? That is to say that just like a body has no comparison to the soul, the same thing, the 10 spheres, even the highest of the 10 spheres, the Chachma, which is godliness, revealed in Chachma, has no comparison to the Ein Sof light which is above it. For just as there is no comparison between the physical body and the soul, so is there no comparison whatsoever between the 10 spheres of Atzilus and the supreme emanator, the infinite Ein Sof. Where in relation to the Ein Sof, even the supreme Chachma, the wisdom, which is the first of the spheres, is on the plane of material action. It says, Kulam b'chachma asisa, you all created with action. You made the wisdom with action. Action is the lowest level, and the wisdom, which is the highest, is also associated with action compared to the Ein Sof itself. Commission is Amarim, as explained in Likutei Amarim. So that is why any mitzvah which is created with a higher spiritual light, you cannot appreciate it in this world, only in the higher world, and in order to appreciate it, the mitzvah creates a garment to the soul to be able to enjoy the godly light. However, when it comes to tzedakah, there is something else. Therefore, through the practice of charity and deeds of kindness, whose fruits man enjoys partially in this world, here comes the metaphor of the coat of armor, the coat of mail. So he says, just like the coat of armor, there is the gaps that the scale covers. The gaps represent that there is holes, that there through these holes, so to speak, there is the Ein Sof light that penetrates, goes out, down in also to this world. Now, these holes, when it goes down to this world, you're talking about such a powerful godly light that enables to go down to this world. We're able to enjoy it in physical blessings. But being that this powerful light is coming to this world, there is also a danger. The danger is that it can go to the wrong places also. For that reason, those holes that allow that great light to come out need to be covered themselves. They're covered with the scales cover themselves. And that cover protects it from going to the wrong places, that it should go only to the right places. That's what Alter Rebbe says now. So it says, Yesh nekovim al derech moshon belavusha elyon makif al gufa himakelim liyud sfiris. There appear, metaphorically speaking, gaps in the supernal garment that envelop the body, which is the vessels of the 10 spheres. So the garment, we said, represent that high light, the spiritual light and encompassing light, that they envelop the body, which is the 10 spheres. And there are gaps there. Through these gaps, light and abundance are irradiated and diffused so that from the sephira of Chesed, which is the right arm, the result, longevity in this physical world. And from the left arm, which is the sephira of Gevura, there result wealth and honor. And likewise with beauty, that emanates from the sephira, the attribute of Tiferes, and majesty, hod, splendor, hadar, and gladness, chedva, etc. From the respective sephiras of hod, yesod, etc., it goes down. This is the holes, the gaps that allow the great light to penetrate and to come down to this physical world. However, as we said before, there is the problem, once it is open, that gap, then wrong forces can also benefit from it. However, in order to prevent the forces of evil from drawing on high, from the light and abundance in which evolves and descends netherward, as far down as this physical world. And likewise here below, in order to shield man and to guard him and save him from all physical and spiritual harm, which could conceivably result if the Klippos and Sitra Achra were to derive nurture from this source. So that is why it needs to be covered. Those holes need to be protected. They should go only to the right places. The encompassing light is reflected back and, figuratively speaking, fills the breach. For this encompassing light belongs to the category of infinitude and Seviv Kalalmin, as mentioned above. And this infinitely transcendent degree of light, called Or Makiv, is a source from which the source of evil are unable to derive any sustenance. So a metaphor given to this is like when you want to give and you want to tell a secret to someone. There's two ways to do it. You can go to the person and you give him, whisper in his ear. But then he has to be particular that only he should hear, nobody else. But then there is another way of keeping the secret. You can tell it very out loud, but you say it in codes. You speak in a language that nobody else understands. You're revealing the secret, you're revealing the goods, but you're doing it in a way that you're protecting the secret. So Hashem is revealing that inner light, but through giving more. The tzedakah, what the tzedakah does is acting godly by giving tzedakah. It draws down from that infinite light of Hashem, and it fills the gaps that it shouldn't go to the wrong places. And this is what underlies the above quoted teaching of our sages of blessed memory, that just as with the chain of mail, all the individual scales add up to form a large coat of mail. So it is with charity. All the individual coins add up to a great amount. Now, the word great is used advisedly and very precisely. Why? The concept of great is the greatness of Hashem, which is in the infinite God. In the spirit of the verse, great is Havaya, and exceedingly glorified, without end, limit, or restriction, heaven forfend. So here the Alter Rebbe explained the concept of the coat of armor, how it is that the mitzvah of tzedakah is other than any other mitzvah. And this brings the blessings that great infinite light penetrate to this world also. We can enjoy the benefit in this world. And at the same time, it protects from that light from going to other places. That is why it uses the metaphor of the scale, the coat of armor. It's talking also about the mitzvah of the Kova Yeshua, the God. That we'll talk tomorrow in tomorrow's lesson. Have a wonderful day.